Hello there. Well, I thought I'd give you a little update of what's going on in the Ferme de Lettres. We're in the beginning of spring and it's just magnificent weather at the moment. Despite the confinement, I'm actually really lucky to be here. And everything's starting to flower. I'll show you some of the stuff that's going on. In front of the house, which is just in full flower, it's really gorgeous. The irises just started flowering a couple of days ago. They're just one of the most beautiful flowers I've ever seen. Here you've got one of our cherry trees, which is just ending the flowering. And it's magnificent. I'm looking forward to some really good cherries this year. But what I really wanted to talk about was I'm preparing a whole bunch of vegetable patches for my babies, as I call them. In about a little less than a month, I'm going to have to plant a lot of the vegetables that I planted, that germinated. And so I'm trying to, as quickly as I can, make beds for them. So I wanted to show you kind of how I'm doing that. It's a lot of experimentation. I've been reading a lot about different methods, and I'm going for this method, which is called the no-dig method. So basically, I started with a lot of brambles and weeds and stuff, depending on the area, and I've just cut that all back. And sometimes I covered, like I did here, with tarpaulin, so that the light couldn't get to it, and underneath it kind of rotted, and it richens the soil. So that's quite a good way. Then basically I've been doing kind of slightly different methods for each one, but creating beds like this and putting lots of different layers of mixture of carbon, which you need. That's what makes the soil really black and promotes fungal growth, which is really good for a lot of things. So carbon comes from branches. You can see the branches. I've been putting branches along the middle, creating beds which will have two lines on either side of the branches that I put there eventually. And also putting a lot of kind of broken branches in the footpath, which goes in between, which will kind of rot as it goes on and feed the roots. That's the idea. And the other layers are green, like grass cuttings and weeds that I pulled up that I just lay down, and that's more of azote, so it's nitrogen based, which is also necessary. Some plants prefer more azote, more nitrogen. Some prefer more carbon, so it's kind of a hit and run. I'm trying to do a lot of research which ones, like I heard that like broccoli likes more azote, that's nitrogen based, which is more green cuttings and things like that. And tomatoes is like half, so I've got to kind of like try and weigh up and try out. It's like a running experiment. Another thing I'm also doing is decided I've made compost in the past, and I'm using it. I'm using all the compost I had, putting it in there as well in different layers. Sometimes it's called a lasagna because it's like lots of layers, so it's like a lasagna. And the other thing, from now on, I'm actually going to put my waste from the kitchen directly into it and then cover it with straw. So you can see it here. Here, I've got my waste from the kitchen there. And then I'll cover it up and it'll just kind of directly go into the soil instead of losing a lot of it when you do a compost heap. And then behind me here, I've got a whole bunch of apple trees. It's like an alley of apple trees. And they're just about to blossom. Look at that. Very exciting. Last year we didn't get any apples because it froze after the flowering. So it was a real shame. No apples, no cherries, no plums. I lost a lot of fruit because of that. And that's the way it goes, gardener's life. Oh yeah, what I forgot to say was that after I've put all those layers on, I'm planning to put wet cardboard. You put it over it. It tracks the worms, and it encourages the compost to form underneath it, and also it protects you from having too many weeds because it doesn't let the weeds get through. So I like the idea of not working too much in a garden, and apparently it's possible with this no-duke method, and it's actually letting nature do the work. It's like a collaboration, an artistic collaboration with nature, and I think that's really cool. So yeah, so I'm just kind of gonna sit on this chair and let nature do all the work. Well, it's not exactly like that, but anyway. Just look at that view. I'm a very lucky guy. I'm glad I can share it with you. So take care until next time. I'm gonna have to head back to the garden, and I've got a lot of work to do actually.